To put something like this together and the Center on Main could respond. I saw it on Facebook, I think Judy posted about it, and then I said, what we want to do, here's the.
I'm
I
sorry.
can focus, I was a teacher, so I can handle it. This place Denise bought this building for the Falls Village Children's Theater, many years ago. And so it was primarily for them, and then it expanded to the Center on Main, where community and the arts meet. And as we expand, we think about creativity beyond just the arts and into creativity. What does it mean to be a community, and how do we be creative in a community? How do we come together with creative questions, like the questions you submitted, and creative answers for those who want to represent us? So we love creativity here, and we're so glad you can be here. We have a lot of good stuff. If tonight, for any reason, sort of stresses you out, on Saturday, we're having a sound bath here. Now, for those of you who don't know, is when a person who's a master in the art of therapy will come and they'll play really nice sounds, and you lay on a yoga mat with a pillow and a blanket. You just get to relax. It's like a deep relaxation, deep meditation, and the sounds just really help. So if you're feeling there's a lot going on in the world, come out Saturday night and partake in that. The Falls Village Children's Theater also has a fall production coming up. So tell all your friends with kids to sign up. I'm going to be doing the musical directing for it, and Amber Cameron will be directing. So we have Falls Village, very Beth, to direct that. And so yeah, thank you for being here. We couldn't be here without your support. So please support the Center on Main in any way you can. And I will now pass it on to Ted.
Thank you. Just a quick note, this event is being recorded and we have sensitive microphones at the table here and up here. So if the audience could really try to keep it down to a whisper, that would really help with the recording for the people that are attending remotely. Welcome to the Center on Main's first community forum for selectmen candidates. My name is Ted Moy and I'm your host tonight. And we have this awesome opportunity to hear how our future town leadership would plan to address our community concerns. So I'm very excited to be here and I can't wait to get started. But we do have some housekeeping to take care of first, and including and starting with thanks to these fine people up here. Thank you to the candidates for taking the time out of your busy campaign schedules. I know that you're hitting the roads and shaking hands, and I appreciate you spending the time. Question submitters, we had dozens of submissions and several questions per person. So it was a really involved and active process. Thank you for making this an interactive experience for the community. Thank you to all of you, the audience, the good people of Falls Village who are attending here in person as well as remotely on the Zoom meeting. And to Eric Carlson and Vance Cannon as representatives of the Republican and Democratic town committees for assisting in coordinating these candidates for this evening. Dan Shaw for helping with production and planning. Denise Cohn for putting together our virtual meeting on Zoom, and planting seeds for the donation of these OWL cameras that we're using to capture this event. Thank you to the Center on Main. When the people said they wanted this opportunity, you answered the call, and we really appreciate it. It's a fantastic resource for the community, so thank you. And of course to Brooke Martinez. You carry this effort on your shoulders and wrote pretty much my whole script, so I appreciate you doing that for me. Except thank you, and keep up the good work. So our plan is to be here together until about 7:30 or 8, depending on how quickly Greg and Dave will answer your questions tonight. 8 o'clock, yeah, that's our commitment. But I'll speak quickly if I can. We'll start with candidate introductions and then move on to question and answers. And we're so thankful for the many townsfolk who submitted their questions on the survey that Brooke sent out. There were dozens of questions submitted, and Brooke and I did our best to group similar questions into like a core subject. We then shared our questions with the candidates, so everybody had the opportunity to preview what would be asked tonight. Hopefully that was a fair process for all. And this simply would not be possible. It would not be possible to go through all the questions that we received tonight. So for those whose questions are not answered or those desiring a follow-up, the candidates have agreed to be available directly after the forum for a little unstructured one-on-one. Don't worry, we warned them, so it's okay to pull them aside. Before we actually get into introductions, I do want to go over the voting details. I think there are a lot of people that are not really quite sure how this is expected to work. I was one of them. So on November 7th, we'll be voting for multiple positions, but included are the Board of Selectmen positions. The vote will determine who is the first selectman and who holds the seats of the other selectmen. There are 1 first selectman and 2 selectmen. Greg Marlowe and Dave Barger are running for first selectman. You get 1 vote for either of them. Judy Jacobs and Chris Kinsella are running for selectman roles. You get 1 vote for either of them. Whoever gets the most votes between Greg and Dave will be elected the first selectman. The top 2 vote getters between Judy, Chris, and the non-winner will be elected as the 2 selectmen. I see some nods. I think that was pretty clear. Okay. And I just wanted to put it out there that this is an absentee ballot state. So if you're thinking that you can't make it to the November 7th, or to cast a ballot on November 7th, consider researching how to get your absentee ballot. It's myvote.ct.gov/getmyab. I can tell you that later if you want to pull me aside. Okay, so we're going to move on into candidate introductions. And just a quick heads up to everybody, in an attempt to answer as many questions as we could, we kind of preloaded or suggested that our candidates address some of the questions in their introduction. The submissions asked candidates for short and long-term vision of the town, their top 3 priorities and actionable steps they would take to make these things happen, their experience and specific achievements in and out of office, and why they feel they are uniquely best suited for this job. And for this first part, I'd like to just go down the row here, starting with Dave, ending with Chris.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm David Barger, and I'm the Democratic candidate for selectman of Canaan, better known to all of us as Falls Village. I would just like to take one moment right now, and if we just all think about those folks who are now in the Middle East and faced with the conflict there, and that we just think about them for a moment. Number 2, I would also like to have you keep a good thought for the families of Lieutenant Dustin DeMonte and Sergeant Alex Hamby, that is, who were 2 Bristol police officers who were killed exactly 1 year ago today. Thank you. A 5 to 10 year vision for the town of Falls Village, this is what I look at. And we'll get into some of the specifics as we get a little bit later on in the questions. The slow and gracious growth, the balance between conservation and development. What do I see as our priorities right now? Well, access and transparency. Number 1, access to the first selectman, whether it be through email, phone call, office hours, and transparency. I believe that with an open door policy of the first selectman, transparency will come along naturally. I'll also look at the second thing that we're looking at as a priority, and that's infrastructure. And when people think about infrastructure, they think about roadways, bridges, but we also have to look at the buildings we have here in town, how best to maintain them. How are we going to go about that? How are we gonna use our reserve funds to pay for those repairs? This is what we have to look into. We want to get the maximum life expectancy out of everything that we have here. And that is something that we have to look at now. Last but not least, of my top priorities is all transitioning to workforce housing. Yes, the River Road project. We have to look at it once again and look at what size it will be. We can also look at other properties in town, properties that may be up for sale, that can be renovated or
Dave Barger.
That's when I talk about transitional housing. What is transitional housing? That is bringing people into the community, getting them involved in the community and having them transition into being residents who would buy a home here. I've spent 43 years in this community. Most of you here know me. I raised 2 children who went through Lee H. Kellogg School. They also went through Housatonic Valley Regional High School, where they both received fantastic educations between Lee H. Kellogg and Housy. That's before they went on to college and on to their own lives. My wife and I still live in a house that we built about 42 and a half years ago. I say 43, she'll say 42 and a half. I have deep roots here. I have deep roots. This is not unlike the area in which I was brought up in New York State. I spent 24 years as a Connecticut State Trooper, and I started here at Troop B in North Canaan. That's how I was actually introduced to the town of Canaan Falls Village. It was in my patrol area. I retired as a Master Sergeant, which is an executive officer within the state police. When I retired from Troop L in Litchfield, where I supervised 127 troopers, constables, and civilian personnel. The Troop L is also Western District Headquarters. From there, I went for 15 years, Quinnipiac University. Some of you may have heard of it. We were the national champs in hockey last year. I spent 15 years there, starting out as an assistant chief of security, and was able, over my tenure there, to transition it to a full-time public safety department with 82 full-time employees. We started out with 15 full-time and 25 part-time, transitioned it to 82 full-time employees. And as I said, I retired as chief of public safety. The other thing that I want to mention here is I spent the last 2 years working on becoming what's known as a CCMO. That's the Connecticut Council of Governments Municipal Officer. That's where you take classes that cover everything from budgeting all the way through housing. And I'm very, very proud of that. I'm one of the few people in the northwest corner who holds the CCMO from the Connecticut Council of Municipalities. My whole life has been dedicated to public service. You can see that. If I look at the things that I achieved in my previous occupations, there's 2 things I'm very, very proud of. One, I was part of the K9 unit that developed the first in the world's accelerant detector dog. That was quite an achievement for a state as small as Connecticut. But I want to point out that I worked with a team that did that. When I think about what I accomplished at Quinnipiac University, I think about the transition. As we all know, a lot happened in schools and in universities. That caused the transition. But I'm very, very proud that I was able to direct the department down the path it went. While in office the last 5+ years, it'll be 6 years in November, I think about what we've achieved. And everything we've achieved, that's why we're a board of selectmen, I might add. Everything we achieved, I always looked at as being a group effort, a team effort. And if there's one thing I'm particularly proud of, it's the fact that we made it through COVID relatively unscathed. When you look at every other town in the state, we came out pretty good. I know if you've had COVID, you've had your vaccines and so forth, but we did well as a town. And I think that was a team effort by the Board of Selectmen. Why am I qualified to do this job? Well, I have a unique skill set. I've worked collaboratively with all groups of people, be it public, be it on a campus, be it within a troop. I've had that experience, and I think that is a unique experience. Last but not least, and I think I'm coming up on time, last but not least, I may not know every answer in every statute book or what we have in every ordinance and so forth, although I've looked at them over and over again. But what I will tell you, you will not find anyone who will work harder to be your first selectman. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Greg Marlowe, and I'm also running for First Selectman. I want to thank my fellow candidates here tonight and every other single person listed on the ballot. By doing so, we become instantly vulnerable. So please remember that we're just regular people who live amongst you in our community. It is the nature of the process to debate each candidate on their strengths, their weaknesses, ideas, goals, qualifications, and experience. It by nature is a divisive process that splits the town into factions. But come election night, when the polls close, we need to come back together at that moment as a unified community, supporting the candidates chosen by our town. The nature of how these elections work is the very reason that I have regularly checked in with Dave during this campaign to assure each other that regardless how this turns out, the town of Falls Village is really the victor. And we will continue to be personal friends to share and coffee the way we have done for years. So why do I want this job? Well, I have a vision for Falls Village, both short and long term. I have a vision of creating a caring, inclusive, prosperous, future-facing town, built on trust, transparency, collaboration, and accessibility. I have a plan I laid out on my website. I made a website, can't believe it, www.gregdmarlowe.com. for your study. I believe it not only gives me a solid plan to follow for myself, but it also gives our townspeople something in writing to hold me accountable for. I started this plan by looking back over my last 12 years as a selectman as a guide. I have collated my ideas and thoughts into what I have named the 4 pillars of the town hall. In other words, this is figuratively being the 4 cornerstones that solidly and smartly will hold up our town through its government. The 4 pillars are comprised of opportunity, caring, well-run, and inclusion. Opportunity. This is achieved by enabling an economically active and innovative town. This includes encouraging new and beneficial businesses. I recently was able to help a newer couple in town as they are starting up a low-impact business in a building which in essence has been lifeless for decades. Opportunity drives me to be the leader that actively seeks state, federal, and private foundation grants. This is the only feasible way to take on the projects that we need to maintain and improve our town assets, such as the town farm property. I won't do that by raising taxes. We need to promote skills development and educational programs for our town employees, such as working with our highway department to be more environmentally sensitive when mowing to protect our pollinating friends. We also need to do so for our public by having programs available live and online to learn how to navigate our local town government. The caring pillar will ensure a good quality of life that is accessible to all through things such as modernized social platforms, addressing housing needs, address green and open spaces that's listed on our plan of conservation and development. I plan to have a town have its own social media platforms to video every single meeting in town and make it available on YouTube, to revisit the POCD as a select board regularly to measure up where we are and where we need to go. The well-run pillar will serve our citizens with a renewed trust in the executive process by promoting democracy and public participation, by developing an open and collaborative government, by ensuring accountability and responsibility. I will accomplish this by being a leader that is transparent within his own board and the town, by focusing on what I deem currently as a lack of open communication. The inclusive pillar will foster a confident community that is welcoming, inclusive, and integrated by holding local events and programs to build a unified community spirit, to celebrate diversity, expand community engagement through volunteerism and fundraising. I will continue to come up with plans like I did with my idea of holding a community picnic this past summer to help with what has been labeled as community discord. Some things about myself that make me stand out for becoming the next First Selectman include having 30 years of experience being a business leader, leading as many as 8 different operations at once across 3 states. During that time, I also was a selectman and member of other boards and commissions and organizations in this town. I have twice as much local government experience as anyone here in this stage, and I aspire and have goals for smart and controlled change. I will bring with me, I will bring with me into this office the ability to be a proactive instead of a reactive leader. If we continue to govern by being reactive, we will not affect change and will do little to nothing in promoting a town that we can all benefit from. I am the best candidate to interconnect our boards and commissions to act as one body moving forward together, instead of being different bodies moving everywhere. Little known fact, I am the person who secured for this very building we're in tonight, the CO, for it to be open to the public, after those who were working on it were not able to do so back at the very beginning of this. I became the chair of the 35 Railroad Street Sales Committee to bring the request for proposal to the public for the sale of this town asset, the old firehouse. I initiated action on our town website and I have improved it immensely while still working to improve it further. I have chaired our bridge committee to bring a design package to completion for the repair of the Cobbler Road culvert project. I brought the Board of Finance into the solar project for them to do their due diligence at the beginning of the project, alongside the Board of Selectmen, again, when it's too late. I initiated a site visit meeting with a full complement of all the boards and commissions, which should have been involved in this same project, the solar project, from the start as well. Lastly, I would like to cover the concern of me having a day job and being First Selectman simultaneously. They asked, how can you do it? Of course, I will be available to be in the First Selectman's office as much time as needed. However, I also believe the First Selectman needs to be out of the office much more, interacting directly with our town crew, our senior citizens, and other residents as well, to have a better understanding of the changing real-world daily concerns that exist within our town. To do this job, you should not have to be retired or financially independent. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Judy Jacobs. I've lived in Falls Village for 52 years, a long time. And I've grown to really love this town. My husband, Denny, my son, Dave, we are owners of Jacobs Garage in town. We took over the family business 30 years ago. And our son is pretty much running the business now and doing a great job. We're very proud of him. I am the president of the Falls Village Canaan Historical Society. I have been involved with the Historical Society for 25 years. And it's become something that's very precious to me. I'm also a member of the Historic District Study Committee that's looking at all our beautiful buildings in the downtown area. I'm a member of the Board of Finance. I'm a member of the Falls Village Volunteer Fire Department. I'm very proud of that. I'm the organizer of the Falls Village Car Show. We've been doing that now for going on our 11th show this coming next year. And I'm very, very proud of the car show. It's become well known throughout the entire New England. And it's brought so much to this town. People come here and they just absolutely love our town. So I would love to be able to continue doing things like that to promote this beautiful village and bring new people to our village. I'm the past chairman of the Falls Village Economic Development Commission. I was a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was chairman of the Falls Village Recreation Commission and a member of various regional economic development committees. So I've been involved with a lot of different organizations, and I think that that brings a lot of skill and knowledge that we could find really useful in this town. I've also written many grants. I worked for several years as a teacher's assistant at Salisbury Central and then at Kellogg School, and I absolutely love that job. It was a joy, and it's a joy to see children coming into the school system. And I also worked as a veterinarian technician, so that's the reason why you always see me with dogs. And a graphic artist at the Lakeville Journal, and my very first job was waitressing at Camp Freeman. It was a great place to work. Debbie and I ended up having our wedding reception there. So I have a soft spot for them. I feel I have the background to serve well on the Board of Selectmen. I've worked with the public for over 30 years and have developed great people skills. I have interacted with people of all different walks of life, and I treat them with respect. And I am pretty friendly with them too, because they're always coming back for more information on Falls Village. I'm kind of known as the town information center now. I have excellent communication skills, and I'm a great listener, and I use these skills well, not only for business, but for all the organizations I've been involved with. I really know the history and the people of Falls Village. I'm a huge proponent of volunteering, and I encourage everybody to get involved with that because it is so extremely rewarding, and we need volunteers in Falls Village. I've been able to lead large groups of volunteers, many who have never volunteered before, and put on large, enjoyable, successful events that showcase what a great town we have. It's been wonderful to see the town all pull together with these type of activities, and I know that we're capable of pulling together even more. My top 3 priorities is to increase more open government and communication and transparency in the town hall and bring back unity. I would encourage attendance to meetings by having them at a reasonable time. Allowing public comment more often, being accessible to the public for questions and comments. I will treat everyone with respect, and I would expect them to treat others with respect too. I will always be available at the garage for people who want to come in with questions, concerns. They can find me there or at any of the events that I am involved with. I would be the people's voice. You can come to me, tell me what you're concerned about, and I will bring it back to the Board of Selectmen. I would love to retain the town character and charm. This is what we all love about Falls Village. There's nothing more wonderful, especially this time of the year with the scenery, to drive into town and see how beautiful it is. I would love to be able to see that be accomplished with different various commissions in town to retain that beauty and character. I would work with various commissions to accomplish this. I would also like to increase recreational usage. I would like to see the town farm be used as a recreation center to its full capacity. I would like to see year-round use of the town farm for recreational purposes. And I think that would benefit so many people, not only the families, but people who would like to go for walks around that beautiful property, people who want to walk their dogs, maybe even a fishing opportunity there. It's got a great little river that runs through it. My short-term vision is a town with better communication and civility toward each other. More involvement and input from the public at town meetings and hearings is critical. More oversight on town ordinances, state statutes and regulations, A town that works together to bring out best in each of us. I would support nonprofits more. I think that we've overlooked how important our nonprofits are to our community. They need more funding. It is really critical to help out our nonprofits. That's what makes our community. I would like to see more maintenance and oversight on our town buildings, our properties in town, our highways, our bridges, all those things need to be taken care of. Some things have been slipped aside for many years, and I would really press to get those things addressed. And I would budget efficiently to make sure that we can do that without increasing taxes and apply for grants as needed. My long-term vision is to have town commissions and new committees and commissions working in unity to promote economic growth while protecting our natural resources and our historic buildings and structures. I would like to see us be able to apply for more grants.
It's Chris Kinsella, Democrat. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I have to say that you are doing a great job making me feel nervous. But what I really love about Falls Village, what I find is most important, Falls Village, Canaan, 33 square miles. From the top of Canaan Mountain, you can see the Catskill Mountains west of the Hudson River, and many points in between. The banks of the mighty Housatonic, the Great Falls, the vastness of Robin Swamp, filtering the already pristine waters that flow from Wangum Brook and the Hollenbeck River, and all that sheds off of Canyon Mountain. The absolute untanned environment, covered with rocks and boulders that's along Route 63 by the town farm and a transfer station, and large expanses of fertile farmland throughout the town. I think you can see where my focus is. Eileen and I moved here 31 years ago from Goshen for a job caretaking a sheep farm, Beaver Tides Farm for Bill and Kay Schrank on Cobble Road. We raised 2 kids here, Aaron and Matt, or Aaron and Tim. And both are residents still. Aaron is married to Matt Schweiker. They have a 2-year-old girl, Abby, my granddaughter. And Matt is the owner of Matt's Landscaping. He employs about 10 people. Tim and his wife Kate have 2 children, Emma and Henry, granddaughter, grandson. Both are enrolled at Lee Kellogg School. Tim and Kate rent the old Adequate Farm at the end of Dalton Street, where they milk 45 cows, and it's the last full-scale dairy farm in Falls Village. Tim manages a lot of the farmland in town for production for most of its hay. Small of it is corn to feed his their dairy herd. Eileen and I garden, grow a garden. We care for some of Tim's calves, and we have an egg production from about 100 layers. Agriculture is a big part of my life. I'm close to retiring from the Carpenters Union and C.H. Nickerson, the construction company where I've been employed since 1988. I'm a project superintendent. I work my way up from carpenter to carpenter foreman to superintendent. And in this capacity, I oversee the entire project, from safety, quality control, productivity, updating project schedules, scheduling subcontractors, ordering and releasing material, reviewing and maintaining a budget. Daily communication with a client was typically a municipality, because of the type of work we do, we specialize in water and wastewater treatment. The largest project that I was in charge of was a brand new $65 million water treatment plant for the city of Northampton, Massachusetts. My service at the town includes one term on the planning and zoning in the 90s, and I helped with the preliminary draft of the 2002 Plan of Conservation and Development. In 2014, after a failed referendum to fund the new emergency service center, I volunteered to join the building committee. And I was able to apply my experience in the building trades to help the members form a concept that was more fiscally acceptable, yet still serve the needs of the emergency services. I'm currently serving zoning board of appeals for my second term. I also am a member of the bridge committee, and we are charged with reviewing and prioritizing a maintenance plan for our town-owned bridges. One of my preliminary, primary objectives, if elected, is the town-owned infrastructure and resources, equipment, etc. In the near term, I would like to inventory its condition and develop a plan to address our long-term fiscal response for that. Another focus would be to enhance communication with utility companies that serve the town and its residents. It's nearly impossible to get a hold of Frontier or any of the cable companies. Another example is to coordinate with Aquarian Water. During the planning phase of our sidewalk initiative, that I guess is coming up, we wouldn't want them to be replacing water mains, service taps after our sidewalks are complete. That would be a pretty simple thing to establish that communication. Another objective is the elephant in the room. That's affordable housing. It affects available workforce, school enrollment, first responders for emergency services, and the overall diversity for our town. We aren't alone in this. This is a problem that's affecting small towns across America. But I pledge to collaborate with all interested to find a solution. In closing, effective communication is the key to everything. My father used to drill into my head when I'd start to go off the rails. Think for yourself, think for yourself, think for yourself, think for yourself. And I used to go off the rails a little bit, like that. So I heard it a lot. I consider having that experience, like my parents, my brothers, my sister, and everyone around, I consider myself a critical thinker. I think for myself. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the introductions. We'll move into our more formal question and answer period. This section will allow for 2-minute responses. And our first question, I will be switching up the.
Just so everyone knows, I'm back here with the timer. I'm going to use bell, so don't be surprised at the hear. That means my bad. Sorry, guys.
Bells means finish your sentence and smile. For this question, we'll be starting with Judy, then Chris, moving on to Dave and Greg. I'll be switching up the order every time. We received several submissions inquiring about how each candidate intends to handle both growth and conservation in Falls Village. Some expressed the need for more growth, getting young families to move here, expanding the tax base with residences and businesses, while others expressed concern about conserving our small town charm and protecting our open lands from developers. What actions would you take to both grow our town into a vibrant place for families and businesses, but also make sure to protect and maintain what we have and love about Falls Village?
If you wanna do the 50 to be
You're welcome to do that.
So it was asked in, for that question, let's see, how you rate yourself, 50-50 equal concern for both growth and conservation, 70-30 versus growth versus conservation, or et cetera, and I put 60-40. We have a lot of land in Falls Village that's already protected or unbuildable due to its terrain and inaccessibility. But I believe we can achieve both growth and conservation by encouraging more agriculture businesses that draw in visitors. Agritourism is a great way to do this. We have our own little family farm, Whiting Brook Farm, and we produce maple syrup and growing Christmas trees and harvest timber. And we work with students from the high school and the grammar school. They come in and see our production. And it occurred to me that people really do enjoy coming and seeing how a farm works. We have some great farms in this town. We have the Kinsellas that do an amazing job. They're the hardest working young people that I've ever seen, next to my son and daughter-in-law. and the cars and a lot of great little farms here. And I see the potential for expanding that type of scenario, which would increase tourism, businesses, make these farms more sustainable. And at the same time, we're retaining the beauty of our landscape. So I think that is one avenue that we should really start looking into more. Cam Friedman, Adam, and I think does a fantastic job with this concept as well. I think we can have more home-based businesses too, and small businesses that do not intrude on our rural landscape. And I believe that we can look to our existing businesses to help them grow and expand. We need to support them a lot more than we do now. I think that we should work with planning and zoning to make sure their regulations work with all this in mind. And then we can put an open for business sign in Falls Village.
Yeah, thank you. I think in my opening response, or my opening statement, really says what I feel about, Falls Village. The wilderness, the open land is, I think, in my opinion, the most important thing, the most important asset. We do need, affordable housing. There's no question, or should rephrase that to workforce housing or transitional housing. I work all over the state of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and when we get into conversations at work, I get a real sense of pride to tell them that we're the second smallest town in the state, 1,200 people. It's a huge source of pride for me. I've seen the way Goshen grew uncontrollably. And my brother is on the board of selectmen up there, and I get by default, I get to hear all the issues and troubles that they're going through. So for me, it would be probably 70% in favor of retaining open space, 30% focus on housing, and of that 30%, probably 29% should be affordable.
First, I would like to assure you that I didn't talk to Judy, but let me just say, bring vibrancy into this town again. We need to showcase our gems. What are our gems here? Our gem is our school, our library, the building that we're sitting in now, our agricultural business, the fact that we are right along the Appalachian Trail. We should capitalize on that. Just look at all the people who pass through hiking at any given time. If you're asking me where I am, I'm pretty much 50-50 with growth and conservation. But I think the growth that we have, it has to fit into the character of our town. That's the main thing. At the POCD meeting not too long ago, we heard about people in the center of town talking about growth in the center of town. Again, I assure you, I did not speak to Judy about this, but again, home-based businesses, we can cultivate that. We've seen a lot of that now since COVID came around. A lot of people working directly out of their homes. Again, we need more housing. We need growth in our actual housing stock. I hate to use that term, but our housing stock. There are very few houses available right now for sale in town. So we need to look at our stock. So if we need to build more houses through the Falls Village Housing Trust or what have you, that's something we have to look at. Right? Again, expansion in these areas should be slow and graceful, as I said in my opening statement. We don't need to move along fast in the next 5 to 10 years. What we want to do is looking at growing our tax base, since we have no great industry here. And I don't think we want an Amazon warehouse here either. But we have to do it through the growth of homes. That builds our tax base. Just one last thought. We have more restricted land here in the town of Falls Village than any other town in the state of Connecticut. So we can maintain that conservation.
In my opinion, we ought to think about a 30% growth, 70% conservation. We do have to grow and change a certain amount as a town, or we will die out. My answer for what my actual plan would be is to keep attracting young families at the pace that we currently are, and perhaps a slightly bit more. As evidence, they are here. When you see them walking around town, look at the Kellogg school numbers rising. And to keep that going by supporting Kellogg more closely by developing a direct line of communication with the Board of Selectmen that currently does not exist. The school and the local Board of Education are currently treated, in my opinion, as if they're on their own island, and that needs to be changed, as our most valuable town assets are attending to that school. I will push for interaction to be organized between our senior citizens and these school children. I will push for interaction between our fabulous daycare and Kellogg School. As far as growing business while keeping the growth in check, we've been doing a good job at it by utilizing our P&Z as they are intended to be used for this planning purpose. And I would be an active ambassador to our people and new people who want to start or expand on a business that makes sense for our town. At the same time, it is also important to be an asset for our existing businesses if they deserve our attention too. I will continue to push forward and utilize local businesses and suppliers as much as possible, such as I did when I recently requested we get a quote from, and ultimately we chose, a local plumbing company to work at Town Hall. Again, the protection and maintaining of what we have and love about Falls Village lies mostly with the planning and zoning, and I believe we are in very competent hands there. I will continue to monitor and offer perspective that crucial board is wanted and needed by them.
This next question is a multi-part question, so I'm going to ask you to, with one-word answers, one-word answer, and then you'll have the opportunity for a longer question. Submissions for this event, as well as the draft of the Plan of Conservation and Development for 2023 through 2033, indicate that affordable housing is currently a top concern for our town. Concerns include there isn't enough affordable housing, where should affordable housing be placed, what impact it would have on the town, and the existing plan seems to have created a serious town divide. The first question is simple, yes or no. Do you support the River Road home development? And this is Chris, Dave, Greg, Judy. Do you support the River Road home project?
I think I could. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Second question is also simple, yes or no. Do you support the purchase of multifamily houses in the center of town to be renovated for such purposes by the Falls Village Housing Trust, a nonprofit corporation in town?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Question now will be in the same order, given the full length of the response. If you are in support of affordable housing, which it seems like we are, and treating affordable housing as a priority, what will be your creative solution for making the existing plan work? Or what new ideas are you willing to introduce to address affordable housing?
I think, as I stated, it's a real complicated issue, and it goes deeper, everyone is feeling it. We're not unique, Falls Village is not unique. Like somebody, Matt and I had a discussion last night about, his workforce, half of his 10 employees live in Torrington. Well, that's tough, I guess, I chose to live here, I worked, in stores, I worked in Stanford, Greenwich, all over the state of Connecticut, because I wanted to live here, but that's my story. I think, we have to work collaboratively with other towns, other people that have had, success stories in this. Maybe not just, the focus shouldn't just be on 18-unit buildings or multifamily structures. Is there another way we can make it so that it's to entice younger families and younger, lesser, entry wage people. You take how much money do you have to earn to pay a $500,000 mortgage? That's not entry level. We become gentrified in this town, and especially since COVID. There's so I don't have an answer to it, other than I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to have the conversation and brainstorm. So that's it.
I think Chris makes a very good point here about willing to brainstorm and willing to listen, because that's one of the things that we have to do. I would look at houses with dignity, and that's what I really want to impress on everyone. We want to have people invested in this community. We want to draw those people who will transition into this community and be members of this community. You've heard other of our candidates say, we need people to backfill for the ambulances, for the fire department, for all those boards and commissions, because we are an aging population in this town, and we know it. So maybe we need to look at some things on a smaller scale. Maybe we looked at our first attempt of affordable housing, as it was called, or transitional housing on River Road, and maybe it was a little too ambitious for our town. So maybe we need to scale it back. Maybe we need to look at units that would be more appropriate. We also should be looking at available town properties that we have out there that we might be able to build on, we might be able to utilize. We do have some town properties out there that we really should look at and see if there's something that we could create. If we could build 1 or 2 units. I also think that we should be working collaboratively, not with someone like the Falls Village, just the Falls Village Housing Trust, but even Habitat for Humanity. And there are some other organizations out there. Again, I want to impress on everyone that affordable housing gets a bad rap sometimes. Because affordable is a little bit different now than it was 20 or 25 years ago. Again, I am looking for people to come into town, for young people to come in town, young families become invested. I kind of like what the town of Litchfield does with their affordable housing. When someone applies, they give them preferential treatment if they're involved in a local fire department, local ambulance, or have something else to do with the town. Thank you.
I'd like to revisit the River Road development. We as a town definitely made some mistakes in regards to communicating effectively with enough of our people of what was happening when we made plans for that. And in not planning for any local recourse for relief by opposition groups, with the only relief essentially being for them to go to state superior court. There was no impropriety, just some missed opportunities. With that being said, the proposal is a legal and by right development that is the start of a solution for available housing. If we, as a town, do not take care of this and start acting on it, there are already actions being proposed in Hartford that are far scarier than this project. This is when private developers will be able to come into our town, supersede our planning and zoning and any bylaws we have, with us having zero say in the project. We can't have that. As far as the village center, multiple family housing question, for full disclosure, I was the one who owned the one that existed and I sold it to the Falls Village Housing Trust. I believed in the need for it for affordable housing when I purchased it, and I still do. I believe that the Housing Trust was the right organization to take it over in order to be able to afford to renovate and beautify the property for the benefit of its renters and for its neighboring property owners. We as a Board of Selectmen need to create an affordable housing commission, a wholly different and independent entity from the Falls Village Housing Trust. The charge of this commission is to be the arm of the town, not independent like the Housing Trust, which directly studies and works on property availabilities within our town limits, goals for all housing needs, rental to home ownership transition, and ways to help our young people obtain enough money for down payment costs by being fully up to date with current programs and grants available for this use. This commission brings money and clout that otherwise can't be had by the town. I recently attended a housing conference offered by Connecticut Department of Housing, which was really eye-opening to me, to say the least, in what they will be having available for monies for this purpose.
I am in favor of affordable housing and a lot what has already been said, I agree totally with. But I believe it's time to really start taking action instead of talking about it. We've been talking about affordable housing since Debbie and I got married in the 70s. It's gotten a lot worse, and we need to address this right now. I think that there are so many misunderstandings and lack of communication on the River Road and other ideas that have been expressed in town. And personally, I was against River Road until not too long ago, when I had a nice conversation with Tracy Apple, and he educated me on a lot of the facts that I wasn't aware of. I think we need to tap into more people who have the knowledge and the skill and have been through this, not just in our town, but regionally. Peter Halley, who's been instrumental over in Salisbury, he said he would love to come talk to our town and help us in this situation. I do believe we need to form an affordable housing commission. We need to have a group of people in this town dedicated to addressing these concerns and finding solutions, and we can start acting, get this done. I have too many young people who have worked for us in our business who have been struggling trying to find a place to live in this region. We had one employee who traveled 2.5 hours one way to get to us. It's crazy. We need to do something now.
Our next question, the order will be Greg, Judy, Chris, and Dave. Many Falls villagers were taken aback by a sharp increase in their property taxes, with reports of property values going up significantly, yet the mill rate not reduced proportionally. If many are paying a significant amount more in taxes, the people want to know why this increase is necessary and how it will be spent. If elected, how do you plan to utilize this new influx of money in an actionable plan with visible results that will benefit those paying for it, us the taxpayers?
I agree that the property tax increase for some seems to be out of proportion. After talking to the assessor about this to get her perspective and knowledge, I understand that the latest statistical reval is reflecting the current trends in housing prices surrounding your particular property. We have had a very qualified assessment department in this town. This is where my plan for new educational models being rolled out, both live and recorded for our citizens to learn how things like assessment, mill rate, and taxes are figured out is so crucial. If a citizen doesn't even know where to start to verify that their tax bill is correct or how it's made, then we have failed them as a town leadership. Even though it feels like there is a rampant tax revenue, when you hear this for the town that is creating a windfall of free cash up for grabs to be spent, that's not really the case. The Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the Board of Finance, puts together a proposed spending plan that needs to be voted on and approved by your vote at town meeting. The town treasurer supplies the Board of Finance with a revenue projection, and then the Board of Finance uses that to set the mill rate to equate to enough dollars to fund the proposed budgets. When the mill rate was being set by the Board of Finance this past year, I was the only selectman to step forth in the discussion and fight for a lower mill rate than what they were suggesting. I asked them to take into consideration that with the increase in our grand list value, which was a lot, that they were already proposing a larger tax increase than what we needed. They thankfully came down some from where they were headed. Not long ago, I brought up the idea of a tax payment refund applied to everyone's second tax installment to the Board of Selectmen, but it gained no traction. So from there, I went to work on how best for our town to lower the general fund balance to get the most bang for our buck with your hard-earned tax money. Please stay tuned, there's still work coming.
I would work hard to get the mill rate lower. We've done a very good job with our budgets in town, and everybody has been very conservative with their spending. Unfortunately, pricing of housing has gone up so high. People get a lot of renovations, all those type of things increase their assessment. We do have some, I don't want to say surplus funds, but we have some available funds that we could put to good use in this town to benefit from, all of us. We could do more work on our roads and bridges now. We could do more work over at the recreation center. Our town buildings need to be addressed. There are so many things that we should be doing. And now is probably a good time to do this. And I would like to see the town start applying for more grants to get more funding for our town. I don't know if that's going to be something that we need to hire a grant writer, or if we could do as we've done in the past, where we've had knowledgeable and talented people in our own town apply for those grants. But those are things that we need to start addressing, and at the same time, keep working to lower our mill rate.
Yeah, I agree with Judy, on a grant writer. I think that's a great idea. we certainly should, pick up any chance we can to grab that, get into that source of money. As far as, there shouldn't be a surplus of money. Our expenditures stayed the same or slightly rose. The offset, I guess, is in the, some people's taxes went up because their assessment went up. Some went down, some stayed the same. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but I think as a selectman, I would work in concert with the Board of Finance, and get more in tune with the Board of Education, where a lot of our money goes. And, try and understand it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't understand it, but I will. I would make that pledge to, get involved with the Board of Education at budget time and, work collaboratively again with that group to understand it, fully understand it.
I'll make my response rather brief tonight on this particular question because it has been laid out how the Board of Finance receives the Board of Selectmen's proposed spending plans and how the mill rate is set. What I will tell you is that we spent out of our funds $323,000 this year to keep the mill rate at 21. We would have to look at next year, if we have a 2% growth in the town budget and 1% growth in, let's say, the education budget, which includes the H. Kellogg and the high school. We would have to look at taking somewhere around $388,000 out of our reserve to maintain that 21 mill rate. So again, the money is not being wasted. It is not being put aside. All right, what is going on is we can take it and apply it to offset the mill rate. And I think that's where the Falls Village Canaan taxpayer will get the most bang for their buck.
I'm gonna get real tricky on this question. So it's Judy first, Dave, Greg, then Chris. Really? The tax increase was a surprise to many, perhaps due to inadequate from town government to the community, perhaps. That's not to say that the information isn't technically out there. Rather, it's become apparent over the past year or more that more communication is better. Some individuals around town have taken it upon themselves to fill the communication void, but it might be fair to say that improving communication without over-reliance on voluntary work should be a high priority. How do you each envision fostering transparency and open communication between town government and residents?
Well, I do believe that, we are in the age of social media. A lot of the word, I think most of the advertising for this event was done via social media. I happen to manage 8 Facebook pages myself. My son calls me the Facebook queen. So I think that we could utilize that more, and our town website needs to be revamped so it's easier to read. Our events are more coordinated. It would be beneficial to be able to have meetings posted way in advance. And there's sometimes it seems like those meetings just happen so quickly that we're unaware of them coming up. So there's things like that. I also think that for those who don't use the internet, and there are a lot of residents who do not, we should do more mailings when we have like a town meeting coming up. More, there is even the day when we put up sandwich signs that would say town meeting on such and such a date, so you saw that as soon as you came in the town. Any and all different ways to get the word out is going to be to our benefit and get the public involved. So, that's what I hope to see.
We are still a small New England town. And I would dare say, just segueing off of what Judy said, we have to improve our communication skills, but we have to look at everything from handbills outside of the town hall to sandwich boards, to mailings, all the way through websites. Because just going around town, I can tell you, there's still probably about 50% of the people in town who do not use or look at social media. Of course, they do drive through town and they do stop at the town hall and they do see sandwich boards. So again, we're going to have to cover the entire spectrum. But you know what? If we want transparency in government here in Falls Village, aside from just an open door policy for the First Selectman, we need people to get involved. Get involved. Come to the board meetings, come to the commission meetings, come to meetings such as this. This fosters transparency. You can see what's going on. This evening, you can hear what each and every one of us has to say. There's nothing open to interpretation. If you come to a board meeting, either look at it online or be there in person. And I'm a real big in-person guy. Let's get involved. You know, here in Falls Village, and I'll just point this out to you, that we have one of the largest percentages of volunteers for our population, whether they're involved in the fire department or on a commission. But again, let's get involved. That will foster the transparency.
This question was an exact driver in my vision statement that I have placed on my website. The answer is spread all throughout my platform. I've been sharing my description of Falls Village recently as that of one with a center hub representing town hall, spokes reaching out in all directions, being all our boards and commissions, but with no outer wheel to connect it all back together, just like a little bicycle wheel. This faulty design doesn't allow communications to be shared amongst us. There's no reason that the planning and zoning should not be aware of what the inland wetlands is discussing. There's no reason for the Board of Finance to not know what is happening and being discussed by the Rec Commission. That may be under future radar. My idea of recording and sharing every meeting in town and getting it out for all to easy access and developing inter-board and commission relationships is the start of fixing this flaw. I will ask every board and commission to have a representative appear in at least 1 or 2 Board of Selectmen meetings per year to report to the town what is happening with their respective group. I will ask every non-municipal organization that is funded in part by taxpayer money to appear and do the same thing. I, in return, as First Selectman, vow that I will closely follow their work and be present at as many meetings as I and my fellow select board members can appear at. As I have been visiting the Rec and inland wetlands, that's hard to say, inland wetlands meetings recently to discuss the solar project, and being on the planning and zoning for many years, it's remarkable how often questions arise that can be answered right on the spot by a selectman so that their valuable time and traction on whatever subject they're discussing can continue. Again, as I stated, I plan to have as many forms of social media as possible activated by the town, on behalf of the town, to share information like a monthly newsletter written by the First Selectman and available as well. To make no change, to expect the same unacceptable result. I am totally new to social media, but I've already been made aware how truly important it is. If we can reach a few more people, that's a few more people that we didn't reach before.
So, in my leading up, statement there, I mentioned at the end, that communication is key. Communication is key to everything. I was sent to, Las Vegas for the Carpenters Union, to the International Training Fund that we have out there, training site. And the key, topic was communication. They, have a lot of facts and figures about the amount of lost time and lost money, because of poor communication. I don't remember what they all were, but it was driven in was communication. The problem with something that we're talking about here is, you know, the board of finance, you know. People don't wanna hear it, they don't wanna listen to it until they get their tax bill and they say, oh my God, taxes went up. How do you deal with that? I'm not sure. You know, the communication, somehow we have to get to them and let them know, hey, look, you know, it's budget time. And if you wanna complain, well, you better get to the meeting and listen to what's being said. Better get involved. If you don't get involved, somebody else will get involved for you.
We're moving on to our speed round. It's not quite lightning round, but it's faster than the previous round. We're asking for about 1 minute response time on these questions. And this first one will be Dave, Chris, Greg, Judy. Do you support permitting a cannabis dispensary in Falls Village? Why or why not?
I have to tell you, this question really presents a true dichotomy for me. Because when you're a first selectman, you have to look at public safety, and you also have to look at growth within the community. So here's what we're looking at. We look across the state of Connecticut, and you can look online, and we have our own, here I have a copy of our zoning regulations having to do with cannabis dispensaries and grow operations and so forth. What we have are you, the legislative body. If a P&Z hearing comes around and you voice your opinion that you want a dispensary or a grow operation, then the planning and zoning board has to listen to you and make your decision based on that. So here we are. If it's the law, if we are going to have a dispensary, then I would have to support it. From a personal standpoint, public safety, I have to be honest, I can't.
I would have to say no, I would not support that, but as Dave said, if the body of the town feels that they want one, well, my vote is only one, then it would be no. A growing, a greenhouse or a production facility, possibly, as long as it didn't, wasn't built on, prime farmland.
I do not support the idea of permitting a cannabis dispensary in Falls Village. Having watched our surrounding towns to our north in Massachusetts, it's my opinion that this is not something we need here in our town, as we work so hard to maintain our cherished rural character and the effect it would have on our neighborhoods. I do not see it as a beneficial business, and to top it off, the state has stalled the whole permitting process currently anyhow, as it struggles to figure it all out. If you were at the recent POCD public input meeting a couple weeks ago, you would have heard testimony from 2 residents on opposite ends of Main Street, who were very clear, very articulate about how they and their families are directly affected by town events, and shared with us what that experience is like for them. To think that dispensary impact would have no effect on nearby citizens is to be tone deaf to that important testimony we were given by our 2 residents.
I would say no to a dispensary too, especially until the regulations are firmly in place. And then the residents have all the facts. And then they can make an educated decision on that. So at this present time, I say no.
Chris, Greg, Judy, Dave. Do you plan to assist the fire and ambulance service to grow their numbers? And if so, how?
Absolutely. We have a scanner radio that sits on top of the refrigerator, and it's not always on, but sometimes it is. Some mornings when I make my lunch, at 4:30, quarter after 4 in the morning, I hear the tone go out for not necessarily Falls Village, but maybe it's, another town nearby. And you hear sometimes 40, 45 minutes before the first vehicle arrives, or the first responding unit arrives to the scene. It's gotta be the most terrifying 45 minutes, 40 minutes or half hour, whatever it is, it's gotta be the most terrifying time of anyone's life. I was, made my way up to the rank of lieutenant in the Goshen Fire Company before we moved here. And I'm a supporter, a firm supporter of emergency services and fire department. I'm not sure how we would do that. I think we would have to get creative, maybe some type of, maybe a tax break or something for first responders. I'm aware of the, I guess there's some type of compensation that's now, but we need to expand on that.
Yes, it is critical to assist the fire department and ambulance service to grow their numbers, especially currently the ambulance service who are way overworked and way understaffed. This all starts as a narrative to be created by the town hall that indeed people do actually have time to volunteer, and that the personal satisfaction obtained by doing so is immeasurable. Our first responders were all the rage when during COVID they were properly described as heroes, which they were. But in reality, they are heroes every single day. By making the stories and statistics available on a new rolled out town platform, hopefully that can help bring members. It will get, and truthfully may already be at the point where the town will need to make it financially rewarding on top of personally rewarding to become a member, such as Chris suggested, perhaps a tax break. We as a town do put money into a retirement fund, as he stated, for our members, but that obviously is not enough, and it's already well deserved and maybe more.
Question is, do I plan to support the services? I'm already a member and very proud to be a member. I'm a special member. That means I do not go out on calls. I do everything in my ability to promote the fire department and the ambulance squad. They're great, hardworking people. I'm on the membership committee to try to encourage more membership. And I think that people seeing these groups not only responding to calls, but always being there for our special events makes it realistic for more people to get involved. There's not too many that have the time to put into what these people do to get certified and things like that. So we really do need to protect those members who do put in that great amount of time and dedication. And I think they should be rewarded, so.
Again, I didn't check with Judy, but I am already a member of the Falls Village Fire Department, a very proud member. And of course, as you may or may not have guessed, I belong to the fire police, because one thing I do know is traffic. The question gets back here to what can we do for our first responders? And I can tell you that I have spent 42 years in law enforcement as a first responder. And getting back to what Chris said, there is nothing longer than waiting 20 minutes for an ambulance to respond to an accident. Our first responders deserve all of our admiration. As it was pointed out during COVID, they were our heroes, and they continue to be our heroes. How do we incentivize them? Well, we do have a retirement program for them where they just get a little bit of money that we put in. I don't think it actually matches with what they actually do. What other incentives can we offer? Well, some towns offer tax break. Other towns offer a free transfer station sticker, such as Salisbury. Again, we need to look at how we can reward these people, how we can retain them, how we can recruit them.
moving into a section that are, of questions that are focused on the first Selectman candidates. So Judy and Chris, take a break. And this will be Dave, then Greg. As the first selectman, you would be the de facto employer for town staff, and you bear the burden of being a resource, a coach, HR, and disciplinarian. How would you address and handle situations such as unsafe harassment situations with your town employees and residents to ensure their safety and uphold the town's 2021 statement of values that promotes equity in Falls Village?
First, let me say that I am in full support of our 2021, and very proud of the statement of our values. How do we look at one of these complaints? Well, upon receiving a formal written complaint, it would be immediately investigated. But we would have to decide who would be investigated by and what level it had risen to. We would refer to the appropriate agency for investigation after a report is received to the First Selectman's office and the board. I would confer with the town attorney and take action as prescribed by our human resources policy. If whatever happened was criminal in nature, well, then that falls on the doorstep of the state police. Let me also point out, if we have some sort of sexual harassment complaint, first thing that I would like to do, or what I would do, not what I would like to do, is separate those individuals and have an investigation done. And upon the conclusion of the investigation, without us interfering in it at all to compromise the integrity, take action.
First is the awareness that can only be obtained by open and honest discussions with staff and townspeople. It just came to my attention about a staff member bringing up a safety concern that was brought to light for this person at an educational conference they attended. This person's concern has not been addressed yet, and that's not acceptable. This needs to change in our town. An unsafe harassment scenario needs to be dealt with immediately and thoroughly upon initial knowledge of it happening. Of course, each scenario one could conjure up would need a different mode of correction. Whether it was an offense that could be dealt with effectively by mediation, or one that, as Dave says, requires the Connecticut State Police. Completely depends on the exact details reported. I'm not a trained human resources officer by any means, but I do know that I will reach out to whoever I must and find a proper solution that situation deserves, as this responsibility falls solely on this office. I believe it's a case of see something, say something, do something.
We'll go back this way, Greg, to Dave. Do you have plans for municipal sustainability and a greener Falls Village? If so, briefly list your plans. Do you support the solar array at the town farm project in particular?
Yes, we have sustainable CP as a guideline for low impact development programs and resources, and it's fabulous. I recently visited Shamu at Adama to discuss the town partnering up with a compost yard project for food waste. We discussed to encourage town residents to either drop it off directly in their yard or to continue dropping at our transfer station, and then our town employees can bring it over to the farm. Either way, it gets out of the waste stream and keeps organic benefits of it right here in our hometown. Yes, I do support the solar array project being proposed for the town farm property, but I do not propose where it was located. Taking away valuable agricultural land, potential growth areas of rec commission. This is why I set up a Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Inland Wetlands, Planning and Zoning, and Rec Commission meeting on site as one group, one conversation at one time to find alternative placement locations to be able to best benefit our town, utilizing the knowledge of each board to do it right. An example of why it is so important to complete the communication wheel, like the bike that I spoke of earlier.
I'm in support of the town farm with the solar project, and let me just say that first, if it is done correctly. And as Greg did point out, we need to know where those solar panels are going for the maximum effectiveness, as well as not encroaching on the property that is either to be used for our rec center or in fact for farming. So again, Greg pointed that out, I must say. I'm in full support of our transfer station and the community composting project at Adamant. The composting, curbside composting has been going well at our transfer station. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have any plans for a sustainable greener Falls Village right at this moment. I'd be willing to look into it. But you know what? Any project that we have that I will explore and support, I want them to be budget positive or budget neutral and an asset to the town.
To deprive you of Chris and Judy, but we have a couple more for these two. Again, this is still the lightning. Oh, I didn't know, not 740. This is the lightning round, which means 30 seconds. So we're going to hear that bell quickly. Yes or no question for Greg and Dave. If you don't win the first selectman seat, but have enough votes to be a member of the Board of Selectmen, will you make the commitment to serve on the board?
Yes. Yes.
Lightning. Yes or no question? We'll go Dave, Greg this time. Will you commit to being in the office at Town Hall, available for the public during the first selectman's normal hours from 9 to 12, Monday through Thursday? And would you be willing to work later on those days and or Friday if necessary to do the work of the people?
Yes.
I have 30 seconds, right?
You have 30 seconds.
No, I can't commit to being in town hall from 9 to 12 religiously Monday through Thursday. I have a day job, especially Mondays when I travel to Albany for a meeting. I've already shared my plan earlier. I would be willing to work the same amount, but different hours. I will work more hours, Fridays, Saturdays, as well, if needed, to do the work of the people as required. It would just be a different look from what it is today, as
Sorry, Dave, in fact, like you were deprived of 30 seconds, you could have them. But yes, also serves well.
Yes, serves me well, and I'd be willing to work beyond those hours. As we all know, there are many meetings that we have in Northwest Hills Council of Government with DOT and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah. That was tricky, sorry. Judy, Dave, Greg, Chris. Will adding sidewalks be a priority in 2024, 2025 if you are elected?
I was on the original sidewalk committee, for Main Street. And it was a goal to have those sidewalks because I saw so many people walking in the middle of the road. It was dangerous. Children were putting their lives in jeopardy all the time. We have more increased pedestrian traffic now since COVID. There are so many people out there walking with children, strollers, dogs. It's great to see all these walkers in town. So I think that we need to expand our sidewalks, but we need to do it carefully and within the budget. And I would like to see the plan before really committing to it.
Well, my first answer would be yes, but it is if the funding from the TRIPS grant is available, and that's the Transportation Rural Improvement Program. We actually have applied for that grant. As a matter of fact, Greg and I had measured for sidewalks throughout the town and applied for the grant. So hopefully, if that grant comes through in this next year, we will make sidewalks a priority.
definitely a priority for me. I also worked on the Main Street sidewalks. And yes, I worked on the grant with Dave. It's fun doing. We can work together as a town and have fun amazingly. There was a question about tree removal in your writing, but I didn't hear it. Do you want to hear about it?
That's like a teaser.
Oh, the two-part question. Yes, guess that's it. I'll save my tree for the next one. Thank you.
Yes, I would be in favor of, the sidewalk initiative, providing we, as I stated earlier, we coordinate our efforts with Aquarium Water. I know that there's, on, at the end of, what is it, 5 years, I think Henry was, they would be allowed to do improvements to their system. There was a time frame.
Yeah.
So, it wouldn't make any sense at all to, put in new sidewalks and then have them rip them up and for service taps or, you know, new mains or whatever.
There's a final question, and we'll work down the table from Chris to Dave. Have you formulated a plan for hazardous and potentially hazardous tree removal along town roads? Will there be an inventory of trees that are to be removed that are the responsibility of the town and not utility companies?
Well, I think that should be worked out with the tree warden. And in concert with the utilities, you know, Frontier, and any other service provider for, they do nothing as far as tree removal. You know, I don't see why it should be a part of the town's, at the town's expense to remove, trees that are, you know, leaning against their telephone wires, and they should be, liable for that.
Very concerned about the amount of dead trees we have lining our roads. And I'm really concerned because our roads are beautiful because of so many gorgeous maples and various trees. And I think we need to protect those trees as much as possible. But I do know that removing a tree or trees is very expensive. So I'd be more than happy to work with anybody. I believe Susan Kelsey is involved, as well as a tree warden, and I would love to be able to see a plan to get these things accomplished.
So excited to answer this last one. As far as the tree removal inventory, yeah, definitely the tree warden, historically Tim, our highway superintendent, foreman, keeps track of what is needed as part of this job and is done well. I think it would be a great idea to have a spot on the website with a forecast of what is going to be removed, as well as what needs to, so residents can help us keep track. We are up and down the roads, but sometimes you're busy looking at potholes, you might miss a leaning tree. So if we all work together, I think it's a good idea.
And once again, I will assure you, I didn't confer with Greg before this answer, but I would like to get our stakeholders involved, being our town DPW chief, our tree warden, and even those people who want to conserve the trees also, to help us in our decision of what trees should be removed, what trees should remain standing, what we can do to trim back trees. And again, we do have to lean a little bit, no pun intended, on the utility companies to do what they need to do to clear up limbs, over lines, and so forth.
We made it. We answered all of our questions, I think. I just wanted to tell everybody here, thank you. I mean, I asked a lot of you, you stayed quiet, that was hard, I know, and I appreciate your effort. But how about a round of applause for these candidates? I did thorough in my responsibility, but I did not review the voting details that I offered earlier. So for those that are not quite certain, I just wanted to quickly review that on November 7th, we'll be voting for 1 first selectman and 2 select board members, 2 additional select board members. The voters will have the opportunity to cast 1 vote for one of these 2 gentlemen and one of these 2 people. The winner of the first selectman's competition will be the first selectman, and, whoever gets the most votes between, I got this messed up now. The top two vote getters between Judy, Chris, and the non-winner will, be elected to the remaining two select board seats. Kind of got that. Is that mostly clear for people in this room? Excuse me?
Minority representation.
I'm not prepared with detail about that.
It won't come into play because we have equal numbers. Right.
Okay.
It'll break down.
Excellent. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
So everybody to tackle these people and talk to them one-on-one, it's your opportunity.